Yes! Oh, it is. It is. Tuesday episode, a terrible Take Tuesday episode of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. No paper bag over my head to start the show today. I don't know if I'll be putting on the tinfoil hat today. I guess we'll play that one by ear, but no paper bag over my head. I'm not in nearly as bad of a mood today as I was in yesterday. Time tends to work on me. You know, the old cliche, time heals wounds. I'm less upset today about the Hurricanes' loss on Saturday, the Dolphins' loss on Sunday, than I was yesterday. So we have a lot to get to. We're going to talk about who has the hotter seat right now, Manny Diaz with the struggling Hurricanes or Brian Flores with the struggling Dolphins. And I'll tell you why. I'm really thinking Manny Diaz has the hotter seat, and there is evidence to back that up. Before we get to all of that, and by the way, another reason why I'm in a better mood today is NBA season starts tonight. How fucking good is that? Now, we don't get Heat basketball tonight. We have to wait till Thursday. We do get a little advanced scouting report on Thursday's opponent, the Milwaukee Bucks, because they take on the Brooklyn Nets tonight at home. They'll be at the Heat's house on Thursday. So we get to look at the Bucks tonight. Brady Hawk from 5 Reasons Sports is going to join us. Oh, and yes, the 76ers are in chaos. The Sixers are burning down. Brady Hawk's going to join us at 3:15. We're going to talk Dolphins and Heat with Michael Christian, who's going to join us at 3:40. He's a big part of the basketball and NFL coverage here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Friends, I want to remind you that we have an official sports bar here on Donno Daily. This is the place to be. We're going to have watch parties coming up, Heat Road watch parties throughout the regular season. The Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. Make this your spot to watch every Heat game, every NFL and college football Saturday and Sunday, respectively. You guys have to go out there. They've got specials during football season, the 5 for $15 ice-cold buckets of the Heineken family of beers and High Noon Hard Seltzer. You can mix and match those to your heart's content. And no matter what day you go out to the Quarterdeck, you're going to find 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. I love the 2-for-1 margaritas at the Quarterdeck. Not only are the drinks awesome and the beer is cold, the food is delicious. If you haven't been out to the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill, ask yourself, why have you waited this long? The seafood is so delicious and so fresh. I love the sushi. I love to build my own poke bowl, the fresh fish, the oysters and Maine lobster. If you're not a seafood fan, that's okay. The burgers and sandwiches are delicious. The pasta dishes, the salads are awesome. And the baby back ribs, man, you got to try those. The meat falls off the bone. They are so good. If you want to find the location nearest to you or check their menu before you go. Oh, and another thing, every UFC pay-per-view at the Quarterdeck for no cover charge. So if you want to check out that menu, find the location nearest to you, visit them on the web at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. And we have an official sports book here on Donno Daily. Even though I may have lost on the Bills last night, I had a great weekend betting UFC fights. I have so much fun every single day at BetUS.com. BetUS is America's favorite sports book. Their customer service is so great. They have odds on every sport and every game you can imagine. They're the 3-decade leader. They're in their 27th NFL season right now. Join now for a 125% sign-up bonus if you sign up with our code. If you sign up with our code word, 5RSN125. When you make your deposit, you can get a 125% sign-up bonus. If you sign up with a credit card, they're going to give you, let's say, hypothetically, you deposit $100. You can deposit as much as you want to, but if you deposit $100 with a credit card, they're going to give you $125 on top of that in free play money on top of your deposit. Or if you sign up with crypto and use our code, they're going to give you a 200% sign-up bonus. Take that bonus, bet on sports, the casino. I play online blackjack in there from time to time, horses, pop culture, and more at BetUS.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. So good afternoon to everybody. The chat was busy even before we started the show. I appreciate that. I see my guy Marco at MB Bags, who's he's going to be trolling me a little bit here because I'm an Inter Milan fan. He's an AC Milan fan. Inter lost over the weekend. Milan had been flying. They're actually second place right now in the Serie A behind Napoli, who are also doing great. So hello, Marco. Hello, Point to Point Hockey. Hello, Big Dan 305. Hello, David. Brooklyn Rob. So Brooklyn Rob, wrote to me based on the title of this episode. Let's dive into that now, and then we'll start talking some NBA with Brady Hawk in about 10 minutes. Then we'll talk more NFL and NBA. Manny, who loves Madrid. Hala Madrid, hala Inter. All right, thank you, sir. But Brooklyn Rob wrote in, Brian Flores' seat is hotter. Could care less about its football program and more about taking that ACC money. I'll get to that because there's been some interesting things written today, okay? So you look at the situations right now. If I ask you whose seat is hotter, Manny Diaz with the Miami Hurricanes or Brian Flores with the Miami Dolphins, as people have already been pointing out to me on Twitter and in the chat, there are a lot of parallels between the two. That's what makes this so interesting. There are a lot of parallels right now between Diaz and Flores. Both are in their third season. Both of their teams are struggling, okay? The Miami Hurricanes, 2-4. They haven't beaten a Power 5 opponent since the Donald Trump administration. I think they're 0 for their last 6 against Power 5s. The Dolphins are 1-5 now on the year, and they just lost to a team in the Jaguars that came in with 20 straight losses. So both really bad. Both Diaz and Flores, by the way, each have bosses who are also failing and doing a poor job. So that's another parallel. Blake James, the athletic director at Miami, is not doing a good job. Chris Greer, Brian Flores' boss, has put in terrible results in the draft, okay? Now, I lean to Diaz because some of you might think, hey, you're asking two separate questions here. Who should be on the hot seat versus who actually is on the hot seat? That goes back to what Brooklyn Rob was talking about with him not thinking the athletic department really cares about the football team. Now, I lean to Diaz being the guy who is doing the worst job and deserves to be on the hot seat even more than Brian Flores does. Okay, because at least Flores with the Dolphins, he built up more equity in his first 2 seasons than Manny Diaz did in his first 2 seasons at Miami. You know, Flores, I could argue, also has a better pedigree, even though neither of these guys had ever been a head coach before they got their jobs at, Hurricanes and Dolphins respectively. But I'll take the guy's resume who coached very good defenses and learned from Bill Belichick in New England over the guy who got fired at Texas for having a terrible defense. I'm far from satisfied with either guy. Believe me, right now, if I have to choose who should be on the hotter seat, it's Diaz, because you can blame Chris Greer for so many roster issues with the Dolphins. In Manny Diaz's case, because this comes with the package of being a head coach at the collegiate level, he's also in charge of recruiting and selecting players, so that falls under his umbrella as well. Now, normally, to go back to Brooklyn Rob's comment, normally, I would say that between the athletic department or Dolphins ownership of Stephen Ross, that Mr. Ross would be the guy far more likely to make bigger changes and quicker changes versus what seems like an apathetic at times athletic department at the University of Miami. But changes in philosophy, I am led to believe here, and I know my guy Big Dan 305, who posted a couple of things in the chat, is hearing some things. I am led to believe that changes in philosophy might be happening behind the scenes as we speak at the University of Miami. And when I read things like what I read, my friend Gary Furman from canesport.com wrote a very interesting column at his website today. I read this and it's hopium. Okay, this is filling my head up with hopes and dreams and ideas that the University of Miami athletic department actually finally wants to become proactive, not reactive. That they finally really want to commit to being a 21st century athletic department in the way they spend, in the way they hire, in the way that they invest, versus an athletic department that they have to kind of wait to see what everybody else is doing. Then they're going to spend a little money to catch up. And okay, let's make our facilities a little bit better so we're not completely smoked. So let me read you a couple of excerpts here. And I encourage you guys to check this out if you are passionate whatsoever about the University of Miami athletic department. I would encourage you to check this piece out that Gary Furman wrote at canesport.com. And I like Gary, and I hope he's right about this, okay? Increased budgets, he says. The most expensive coaching contracts the University of Miami has ever seen. High-level negotiations to make everything happen. The financing of buyouts. Think about it. Your current coach is going to have a buyout. And escalated operations. He's hinting that these things could be coming. He writes here, this is where the nuggets get juicy and spicy, okay? That future is more likely to come together in a boardroom in the coming days as it is on the football field where the Hurricanes are really struggling, Furman writes. As the Canes nation frets over if and when football coach Manny Diaz will be fired and whether athletic director Blake James will remain in charge of the department moving forward, the university, he says, is quietly working behind the scenes to transform the way it will conduct business in athletics. He says the move is so long overdue. I would tend to agree with that. He continues, the institution that has spent its modern day existence being reactive as the college athletics world evolved around it and left in the dust is now being proactive, working to carve out the structure of an athletic department built for the future. The initiative, he writes, this is where you start to get some actual details. The initiative is being spearheaded by the university president's office. He goes back to, we all saw the statement that Julio Frank made a few weeks ago. I won't read the whole thing about how he wants to create seamless alignment between the board of trustees, his entire administration, and the athletics department. Now, when I saw that quote, that statement from Julio Frank, I thought this is probably just a whole lot of nothing, okay? But maybe there really is something to this. So Furman writes, things have moved fast since then, he says. Some of the most successful business executives in South Florida have also been recruited to advise the university on the path forward. Kane Sport, he writes, has learned that one of the most influential members of this group is Mas Tech CEO Jose Mas, who that's the brother of Jorge Mas, who happens to also be a trustee of the university. But several other local business leaders have also been contacted about participating. He writes in, and God, this is the part where I start praying when I see this, hoping that this is true. Whichever God you choose to believe in, pray to that God that this is true if you care about the Miami Athletics Department. He writes in, the Miami Athletics budget is believed to be now comfortably over $100 million. $100 million. I'm not sure what it's been for the last several years. It's been more like 100 million cents than $100 million. So this would be a sign in the right direction. So honestly, guys, when I read this, when I take in and digest this reporting, this would tell me that the answer to both of these questions might now be the same. Because if you ask yourself whose seat should be hotter, Manny Diaz or Brian Flores, the answer to that question is Manny Diaz. Now, if you ask yourself the question, whose seat literally is hotter, sounds to me like the answer to that question could also be Manny Diaz. If these things are really happening with the Board of Trustees and with these business initiatives behind the scenes, the University of Miami Athletic Department might finally be starting to realize we can't conduct ourselves the same way we did when we were winning in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Because unfortunately, that approach, that financial approach, has passed us by. That's not what the Alabamas and the Clemsons, and, you know, not that they're great right now, although they did just get a nice win over the weekend. LSU, who won recently, like these athletic departments, Ohio State, they are not conducting themselves the way that Miami was in the 80s, 90s, and 2001. You have to evolve, you have to spend, or else you are going to become irrelevant, which is what my beloved University of Miami has become in recent years in football. So if this stuff is true, and these are some welcome changes that could soon be coming, man. And it's hard for me to really speculate who they would go after as the next head coach if these changes do come to pass. And I emphasize the word if, because I'm certainly not reporting that Diaz is about to lose his job. I'm just telling you what may be happening here behind the scenes. I know a lot of people would bring up the name Mario Cristobal. I love Mario. I'd love to have him down here. I just, quite frankly, I don't really understand why he would leave Oregon at this point with, you know, the synergy you have with that athletic department and the fact that he's about to win the Pac-12, I think, for the third straight time. Like, things are going very, very nicely there. I don't see why he would have a lot of urgency to leave. I'd love to have him. I'd love to have Lane Kiffin if he'd be willing to leave Ole Miss. You know, people are debating right now in the chat if they would want Coach O at Orgeron, who does have Miami ties as a former assistant. Personally, I really like Coach O. I know that he's become tabloid fodder, right? As G. Crowells points out in the chat. lately Orgeron has become a train wreck. Read the ESPN story. And you figure if he's got too many girlfriends in Baton Rouge, what kind of damage is he going to do on the dating scene down here in South Florida? Oh my God, hide your wives, hide your sisters if Coach O comes back to town. Hide the girlfriends. Seriously, man. Although I got to tell you, man, there are probably some Hurricane fans who would be so desperate to get a proven championship winning coach. You might like give your girlfriend a free pass if she's interested in Coach O. If that helps to sweeten the deal and convince him to come down here, you might even be willing to say, you know what? I'll just look in the other direction. If you want to go on a wild night on the town with Coach O, I'm not going to complain about that, bro. Justin Hill writes, what if Coach O comes to the Dolphins? I'm not really that interested in the Dolphins hiring college coaches. Not to say it's never worked before. Maybe the guy who'd be the best fit for that might be Lincoln Riley. But overall, I'm not that big of a fan of college coaches. The same way for Miami, and I know Coach O doesn't fit this criteria, but I'd kind of prefer for the University of Miami to look at somebody who doesn't have Miami ties and Miami history, like to bring in a completely fresh perspective. That might be the way to go here. You know, it's always the way to go, especially when you're 2 days away from opening night for our beloved Miami Heat, because we can all fantasize about how great everything is right now. And the team looked fantastic, had a great preseason. I think this team is built to win. They're built to compete. Let's bring on our very good pal from 5reasonsports.com. And I know he's been working overtime, producing so much Miami Heat-related content on such an important week. Brady Hawk is with us. Good afternoon, Brady. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, it's my pleasure, my friend. Now, I missed most of this. I was reading some quotes from you and Ethan on Twitter. So I want to get your breakdown. Before I ask you about some preseason predictions, I want to get your breakdown on Pat Riley's media conference, which started around 2 p.m. What were some of the things old Riles said that really stood out to you today?
I think the first one is always going to be what is said about Bam, because that's kind of the starting kit to this team. And as we've talked about on this show every week, Bam is basically what knocks this team up its ear, and that's what kind of Pat Riley talked about. He talked about him in the past being the facilitator, being the ball handler that we all know he can be, but he said, quote, that he thinks he might be the flat-out scorer this season, which I think that's like a very interesting thing to say, to put out there, because if you do have Bam, let's say, as your leading scorer, you're talking about a completely different team. Like if you have Jimmy, Kyle, and Tyler Hero all behind Bam this season in a scoring column, we're just looking at something completely different. He also talked about the closing lineup, the potential. I think we've talked about it a lot, Duncan or Tyler, where he said it's all about defense. You know, we all know about that. He talked about what you kind of need from that type of guy. And then he kind of pointed to Tyler, that he's multifaceted in that degree, that he can kind of create his own shot in that way, that maybe they'll go that way. I think Spo might go back and forth, but it feels like it will be Tyler most nights. And another interesting thing is, for one, he seems like a very big PJ Tucker guy, which I felt like Spo would be a big PJ Tucker guy. Pat Riley's the same way. The way he talked him up defensively, said that if he had a defensive clinic, he'd basically be running it, just with all the tools he has on that end. And then he talked a lot about the younger guys as a whole, which I thought was interesting, that Max Strus's name got thrown out there a couple times in a Pat Riley presser. Like, I think that's pretty interesting that when he's bringing up young guys, he's mentioning Bam, Tyler, Duncan, and then Max is getting thrown in that group as well. So they see, something there with Max as well. And I think, he's going to be right off the bench there with Tyler, and they're going to try to do something there as well.
I love that. That's a good breakdown. Now, on the one hand, I'm kind of annoyed that I got to wait 2 more nights to watch the Heat, but there is an advantage to that because their opponent plays tonight. So the Heat will be the more rested team on Thursday night. They get to go up against the champs at home, the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks are going to host the Nets tonight. So what are you going to be, and I know you're going to be watching that game very attentively, as all of us Heat fans will be. What are some of the things you're going to be looking at tonight when you scout the Bucks for Thursday night? I mean, obviously Giannis, but what are some of the things about Milwaukee you're really going to be looking at to get an idea of how the Heat will fare against them?
I think the first thing is, what are they missing with the PJ Tucker being thrown out of there? Because obviously Miami basically stole him from them. It's just a kind of a interesting situation. They're going to be using Bobby Portis a lot more. I actually don't know. I think there was something with Bobby Portis. I'm not sure if he's actually playing tonight or not. But either way, I want to see if they kind of have that toughness. Pat Riley was even talking a lot about Milwaukee in this presser, talking about the added size they have, that they're so versatile in that way. And Miami, they added some size obviously with PJ Markeith, but it's kind of it's more width than actual length. So it's a different type of size. So will they be able to counter that with a 7-foot Brook Lopez, a 7-foot Giannis, a lengthy Chris Middleton? I think they have a better chance this year than they ever have. So I think I just want to kind of see that way, the way they kind of Milwaukee kind of utilizes themselves offensively down on the block.
By the way, your take on everything going on in Philadelphia. So Ben Simmons gets thrown out of Sixers practice today according to Doc Rivers, he just he didn't want to participate. He's there, he's not participating in practice. He's been fined, I think, $1.4 million. He's not actually been paid anything since he returned to the team. This is ugly. This is really ugly. And supposedly, according to Woj, the Sixers haven't changed their stance on trading him. I'm loving watching the chaos, and I think things would actually get better for them if and when they do trade him. So yeah. I'd rather the status quo as a Heat fan who wants to see Philly implode. But is this going to keep getting worse, or at some point are they going to find some resolution here and trade him, or maybe they find resolution without trading him? I don't know.
I mean, it's Philly, and we can't even predict what Philly's going to do because they always do something that's a mess. But I do think that's the interesting part. I've mentioned before on previous episodes of this that if you're a Heat fan, you kind of want Ben Simmons to stay in Philly because if they trade Ben Simmons, obviously they're getting something in return to get better. They mentioned that they don't want role pieces in return for him, which makes sense. But they're both going to. It seems like just two sides being stubborn that aren't going to bite. We'll kind of see which one jumps first. But I just don't see. I think it's pretty much happening like we kind of expected. Ben Simmons is not going to engage in a different way than he's just kind of there. He doesn't want to do anything. They said they were doing defensive drills and he didn't want to kind of jump in. It just seems like phone in his pocket. If his agent calls to make a trade, that they got somebody on the line that he'll pick up. But it's a mess over there. And I think if you're watching it from a Heat perspective, you want Ben Simmons to stay in Philly as long as possible.
Now, I know from a Heat perspective, Pat Riley, he would never let anything get this bad with a player. So this people have to bear with me on this hypothetical. But if something like this with a player like Simmons were to get this bad in Miami, how do you think Riley would handle it? If he was in the situation that the Sixers are in right now, what do you think Pat would do?
Honestly, I feel like they would get something in return that we all didn't expect. It just seems like they always be the way. They always seem like they were whenever they were in a bad position, looking back previously before they got Jimmy, nobody thought they could pull off the Jimmy thing. And then a couple months later, you're sitting there with Jimmy Butler on your team, giving off Hassan Whiteside and Josh Richardson. So it feels like if they were in that position, they would kind of pull off something that you wouldn't expect. But I just don't expect, after what happened a few years ago, like I mentioned, I just can't see Miami being in that type of position for at least the upcoming years of the Pat Riley era.
Yeah, Justin Hill writes in, Hassan was a similar situation. I mean, I guess that's probably one of the closest Heat equivalents you could get to, because I don't think the Heat would ever let anything get as ugly as it's gotten with Simmons. But I guess that's not a terrible example if you're talking the Heat equivalent, right?
Yeah, I don't think that Pat Riley would have allowed Whiteside to have his phone in his pocket during practice. He probably would have been doing Snapchats during practice, so I don't think he would have allowed that. He probably would have took that before he walked in.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Something I encourage everybody to check this out if you haven't already at 5reasonsports.com over the next few hours before you get the opening games tonight. Brady and I think 13 other writers and contributors on 5 Reasons Sports made some preseason NBA predictions. And a few of these that kind of tie back to the Heat really caught my attention. Like you caught my attention, Brady, when I was looking at your prediction for the NBA Finals. You predicted the Suns and the Heat in the NBA Finals. I said, all right, my guy Brady. So, I mean, tell us why. And I guess the Philadelphia part of this is pretty obvious with what's going on there. And in Brooklyn, there's some turmoil with Kyrie. So why are you more bullish right now on Miami than you are about teams like Milwaukee and like Brooklyn, who I think, despite their troubles, if I'm not mistaken, I think Brooklyn are the odds-on favorites right now for the NBA title. So why are you more bullish on the Heat than some of these other sides?
Yeah, I just think it's really wide open for them right now. Like when I look at the Eastern Conference Finals, I can see Miami getting there against Milwaukee. pretty easily. I don't expect Kyrie Irving to bite and come back at any point with Brooklyn. This Ben Simmons situation with Philly, I think Chicago got better. Boston's kind of in a similar spot where I think Miami got, added pieces enough to jump into a different tier that they're up there. In a playoff series, I think I really trust this team when you're looking at this team being top heavy, that you have guys that they can go to. It's kind of just about getting to the playoffs with this same unit. Maybe the Victor Oladipo wild card that we continually talk about adds to this even more. I just think it comes down to that. I think it's going to come down to Milwaukee and Miami. I think that's the Eastern Conference Finals, in my opinion. Before I was saying, I think the regular season is going to be interesting for Miami. They're going to probably land, 3 is probably the peak, but I think they're going to land kind of maybe 4 or 5 even. The more I thought about it, the more I kind of feel better about it, just seeing these other teams kind of break down. Pat Riley was just talking about how important the regular season is for this team. 7-14 last season, a lot of it had to do with COVID, but that stuff matters. This schedule this season is not easy at all to begin the year. So if they can get out to a decent start early in their schedule, I think they're going to be sitting well, and they can get into that 2-3 range if you're looking at Milwaukee as one, and then you have a pretty, decent road to trying to get to that Eastern Conference Finals against Milwaukee.
So from the West, why the Suns? Because, most people are picking the Lakers. So why are you sticking with Phoenix?
I just really don't trust the Lakers at all. Like, I look at it, I think it'll come around. Obviously, you have LeBron, you have Anthony Davis, you have a lot of good pieces over there. But it just, right now, before the season, if I'm making a decision right now before I even see it all play out, I just don't trust that group at the moment. I don't think it fits really well. Where I look at a Suns team that I think is going to come back even better. I think a lot of people maybe think that the Suns team, and you always see teams like that where they get to a certain point and then they kind of take a step back, like we were expecting with the Knicks. They just got to the playoffs, they played over their heads, and they're probably going to take a step back this year. I think the Suns are going to come back just as good, and I think they're going to be a threat in the postseason. Devin Booker getting this experience. I don't really know what the DeAndre Ayton situation is going to be, but I feel like if I had to guess right now, I think the Suns are the best team in the West.
We're joined here by Brady Hawk from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Last thing, I know it's hard to give a full preview for Heat Bucks on Thursday when the Bucks have a game before they play the Heat, but what's your expectation for Thursday night? And you touched on this a little bit with the PJ Tucker thing, but do you feel like the Heat are, better equipped now, to match up with the team that knocked them out last year, the team that the Heat knocked out 2 years ago? How do you think that they're going to stack up against Phoenix on Thursday night, against Milwaukee on Thursday night?
Yeah, I definitely think the added size is really going to be a difference maker. I think something to watch is Markieff and Dedmon were also not at practice again because of the cold-like symptoms. You got to hope they come back, because the whole point of the matchup was to have that size. And if you're losing your 2 bench guys, your front court guys for that game, that could really hurt. But I think I want to just see a little bit more Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry we saw for 2 games in the preseason. I kind of want to see it on a bigger stage when they're full go. Those guys are pretty much always a full go, no matter if it's practice, pickup game or not. But I think that's what we want to see. I want to see in a regular season game if the pace is still being as fast as it was in the preseason. I want to see if Tyler is able to carry over his success in the preseason where he's kind of getting shots up. He's still going to get a bunch of shots up, but it's going to be on a bit lesser degree where the efficiency is going to have to carry over. So it's kind of about, they had a lot of great habits in the preseason, only losing 1 game, where if you can carry some of that stuff over and compete in that way, this team's not taking anybody lightly. This team's not we saw what happened in the playoffs in the bubble where they beat Milwaukee, and then it was the opposite last year. This is becoming a bit of a rivalry. Start out the season with PJ Tucker playing Milwaukee. It just seems like there's a lot of things aligning with that. If they can carry some stuff over, that's going to be a big win to kind of carry over to start this hard schedule to start the year.
I like that. What else do you have dropping this week? I would imagine you're going to have tons of coverage on like every platform on the network. So what can we expect this week?
Well, Pat Riley takeaways dropping pretty soon right after this. Throughout the week, I'll just have some previews before the Milwaukee game and so forth throughout the regular season.
That's fantastic. Brady Hawk, and follow him on Twitter at BradyHawk305. Thank you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy the game Thursday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I love it. That's a fantastic job there. All right, we're going to talk in about 10 minutes to Michael Christian, who we're going to talk some Dolphins and some Heat with Michael. That dude's all over the network as well. Like, we have 2 of the most versatile guys from 5 Reasons Sports with us today. Brady Hawk is all over the place. Michael Christian, he wears many hats on the network as well. But before we get into that, let's go over some bad tweets and some terrible takes here on Terrible Take Tuesday. Terrible Take Tuesday is brought to you by, yes, you see it there, our friends, You Break Wheel Fix in North Miami, conveniently located in North Miami. So whether you're a Dade person like me or a Broward person, they're not far away from you guys. Mark, who's a big Canes fan and a suffering South Florida sports fan like the rest of us, although Mark, good news, my friend, the Heat are coming. The Heat and the Panthers are good as well, I should mention. Mark and his repair and refinishing techs have over 20 years of experience. They are dedicated to providing high-quality repairs for cracked, bent, or damaged rims and wheels. They will get the job done quickly, and they will get it done right with a quality guarantee. And don't just take my word for it. Check out their reviews on Google and Yelp. They are all excellent. They can even give you loaner wheels to get your car right back on the road. And here's what, to me, really separates You Break Wheel Fix from the competition. Not only can they repair and refinish your wheels, they can trick your wheels out. Like, I love this, man. If you want to get it done in custom colors, whether it's to match the rest of your vehicle or you want to get it done to match your South Florida sports allegiances, right? You want to get those pink and black Inter Miami wheels, which look fantastic. Red and black Heat-themed wheels. They can even do white hot Heat wheels for you. Orange and green from the Canes. Aqua and orange for the Dolphins. They've done some awesome aqua and orange wheels. Make sure you follow them on Instagram and on Twitter. The IG page especially. They post some great photos there. If you want to make an appointment, you can call them at 305-748-0112. Tell them Donno and the 5 Reasons Sports Crew sent you. They'll give you a nice discount. Or find them on the web and make your appointment there at youbreakwheelfix.com. Fantastic stuff. All right, let's dive. Actually, before we dive into some tweets, let me say hello to Sean Stanley, who's with us. Sean, are you feeling any better today? Because I mentioned at the top of the show, like I'm not like a volcano the way that I was yesterday. So you're not feeling better today. Okay. Sometimes actions speak louder than words there. Well, let's get into some terrible takes here on Terrible Take Tuesday. You guys know that I despise some of the things that people do to pizza, especially the Americans and the British. Like, nobody massacres pizza the way that Americans and Brits do. Chubby Emu tweets, needs more flavor, so just adding some extra sauce. This is even worse than pineapple, I think. So here's what he's got on there. He's got ketchup on there, which is completely unnecessary, and you should have a mandatory prison sentence of 20 years to life if you do something like that. Now, the reason why, I think this person is totally trolling is he apparently has Crest 3D white toothpaste on the pizza, which tells me he's probably not really eating that, right? You're not supposed to swallow toothpaste, are you? Is it the fluoride in there? You know, the whitening stuff? Like, you're supposed to spit it out. So I'm having a hard time believing that this is real, but this person has ketchup and Crest 3D white toothpaste on his pizza. Are you eating that, Sean?
I'm not even. No way, man. What is that?
What if it was just ketchup and not 3D white?
I love ketchup. Ketchup does not go on pizza. Come on. It's not tomato sauce, not ketchup.
We can agree on something finally with pizza and with ketchup. Well, let's move on to the next one. Now, my friend Joey Pineapples, we call him, Joe Cappuccino. I'm pretty sure Cappuccino is not his real last name. I have no idea what his real last name is, but this is a buddy of mine, and we're friends even though he supports Juventus. So right there, it tells you his judgment is a little bit off. He and Brooklyn Rob. But, he's very confident Lord of the Rings is better than Star Wars. There are few things I despise more, and I'm a fan of the genre. Like, I'm a fan of fantasy and sci-fi. Like, I love the Star Wars movie. I love Star Trek. I love Game of Thrones, even though they butchered the ending of that show. Don't even talk to me about that. For some reason, man, I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan, and this Joey Cappuccino is tweeting constantly about how much better he thinks Lord of the Rings is than Star Wars. Like, listen. Yeah, there have been some clunkers in Star Wars, sure. The original trilogy is gospel, right? That is the holy trinity of trilogies, the original trilogy. Some of the TV shows are really good. Like, I love Mandalorian. I love a lot of the cartoons, okay? Oh, see, David knows. David writes in Star Wars original trilogy Wait, well, what's PT? Why am I having a brain fart on what PT is? And he said, and then Lord of the Rings. That is the correct order. But he's got Star Wars overall, which is correct. He says Lord of the Rings is great, but not better than Star. He's right. Brooklyn Rob is right about that. Well, Brooklyn, it's not great. It's oh come on, Natural Vibe says Lord of the. First of all, how long do those movies have to be to make their point? Like. And then people watch these. Oh, prequel trilogy. Thank you, Michael Christian. See, I'm stupid. I didn't love the prequel trilogy, but it was all right. Like, it was actually better than the new ones. Like, the new trilogy, piss poor. Like, the special effects were good. I like the cinematography, but the scripts and the storylines were not good with the new trilogy. But yeah, prequel trilogy. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, David. But no, I'm sorry. Lord of the Rings, boring, way too much detail. You have to stay up like 15 days to watch all those movies. It's painful. It really, really is painful. And something, it's amazing because when I tweeted out to my followers, give me your hottest sports take. I thought I was going to get some real clunkers. And I thought, okay, this is going to give me ammunition to use for Terrible Take Tuesday because people will be sending me shitty hot takes left and right. I actually got some really good ones, okay? My friend David Amoyal, because he responded to my tweet, send me your hottest sports take. And by the way, for those wondering, he lives in Boston. That's important context for this tweet. He tweeted to me, no one would ever mention Belichick as an all-time great coach had he not stumbled upon Tom Brady in the 6th round. He's the most overrated figure in American sports. Bros, I apologize for even bringing this up in Terrible Take Tuesday because that is not a terrible take. That take is so spot on. It is so spot on. You want to know why Bill Belichick has 6 rings and why he's going to be known? His legacy is going to be genius. Like that's going to, whether he deserves or not, Bill Belichick's legacy will be genius because he happened to have the privilege and the fortune of coaching the greatest quarterback of all time, who was able to put lipstick on whatever other pigs of situations they had there. And if not for Belichick getting in his own way, like when he benched Butler in the Super Bowl for petty reasons, would probably have even more rings than he's got. So he is incredibly lucky. And like David said, overrated. I love this. JG writes in, I asked him for his hottest sports take. Luka Doncic will be the best player in the NBA this year. It's not too much of a stretch, is it? And Panthers will win the Stanley Cup. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Nothing terrible about that, man. I hope the Panthers win the Stanley Cup. And this from Presidente. Tell me if you think that this is a terrible take. I'm trying to think about how this would work in soccer. And Presidente, he's a huge soccer fan, and he's in Canada, so you would imagine he's a hockey fan as well. He says soccer should have a blue line like hockey for offside. That would be interesting. Like I would love to see, like in like maybe in like the USL or like the league championship, the 2nd division in England, if like in some minor divisions they like experimented with a soccer blue line. That would be really interesting, man.
It would have to be virtual though, wouldn't it? It'd have to be a virtual line.
No, they could draw it like in hockey. It's an actual blue line, like to mark the defensive zone.
In soccer, isn't it just getting? You have to be past the last defender, right?
Right, but in hockey it's different because there's an actual line versus judging by where the defenders are. So he's saying draw an actual line on the field, like, whether it's blue or not is irrelevant, but the equivalent of a blue line to mark defensive zones in the soccer field. That would be interesting as hell, man.
Wouldn't you have to have blue lines everywhere?
No, dude, you don't watch hockey, do you? Like you seem so confused about this blue line.
Soccer-wise. I know hockey.
Well, no, you do it the same way. You do it the
same
way.
Running down the pitch, if he passes, you'd have to have the line right.
But the thing is, like, you make it like hockey, where you take away the last man thing and you just make it zones. Like you do it like in hockey. So you just would have a line to mark the defensive third on each side. So you add 2 extra lines total. It's interesting.
You know what? I'll shut up. I'm going.
Hockey expert Sean Stanley weighing in. Bring up 2 more for me really quick before we bring in Michael Christian. Like, this is bad. Now, to be fair, he did correct himself on air after he said this, but like, dude, and I know he's technically a basketball guy, not a football expert, but Chris Broussard said on television today on Fox Sports 1, The only reason the Tennessee Titans won is because the Bills were missing injured left tackle Taylor Lewan. He said that. Now, that seems like a great take, right? There's only one problem with it. Taylor Lewan plays for the Titans, not for the Bills. Like, oh, dude. And I get, like, nobody on the show corrected him. Like, they let him die. Like, they let him die out there. Like, oh my God. The only reason the Titans won is because the Bills were missing Taylor. And he even, like, went through a play and talked about how badly they missed. Like, it was really, they let the man die out there. It was like when Rocky didn't throw in the towel for Apollo Creed. Like, they let, if he dies, he dies. They let Chris Broussard die out there. He did correct himself later, but bros, that was bad. And the final terrible take, I don't like this one bit. And this is happening, apparently. Like, this is not someone's take. This is actually happening. FIFA have told all national teams that they plan to go ahead with a World Cup every 2 years, starting in 2026. Every 2 years instead of every 4 years. This is a cash grab, is all this is. Like, there are other continental tournaments that are interesting and important that you would be either minimizing or doing away with completely. And Sean, I'm a soccer fan my entire life. And yeah, some of my best memories are watching World Cups, but it makes it extra memorable and extra important to know this is a once every 4 year event. Like, you're taking a lot of that away to make it once every 2 years. This is just FIFA wanting to pocket more profits, and it's sickening.
Maybe they'll get the blue lines.
I love it. All right, so that's Terrible Take Tuesday. Nothing terrible about our next guest, although he and I both have a reputation for being bad luck, for being mushes. Let's bring on Mush Jr. I guess I'm Mush Senior. He's Mush Jr. Michael Christian here from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Now, Michael, we were talking, I think you were watching yesterday with Alana Tahauer about, and she's right. Like, I remember this. You totally mushed your guy Victor Oladipo last year.
No. I had bought the jersey. It, for some reason, got super delayed. And it just so happened that the day the jersey arrived at my house was the same day he got injured.
Oh,
I don't think that's my fault. I had bought it a couple weeks before.
That's fate. Like, fate planned for that delay in the shipping. Like,
it really
Wait a minute. So the first time you touched the jersey, the man got injured?
No, technically it was still in the packaging, and then I put it on in memoriam on the post-game show.
Okay, so you didn't have it on at the time he got in. That's an interesting wrinkle. I assumed you were watching the game with the jersey on, which would have made you a total mush.
I had it. I left it in the packaging, and then I took out the jersey to put it on for him in like a solidarity. Like, bro, I stand with you even though you got hurt on the day I got the jersey.
Oh, wait, Go ahead.
Listen, I wanted to hop on during your terrible take segment because I had so many takes myself on those.
Ooh, well, give me some, man. Terrible Take Tuesday can continue. It's still Tuesday, so we can roll on.
I'm going to go with the ones that you pulled up, right? Star Wars greater than Lord of the Rings? Easy. Just, come on. That's just facts. Okay? Yep. Belichick overrated? Duh. You have the best quarterback of all time. It makes it easy for you. The soccer one, this is where I'm going to get a little bit spicier. Okay. I don't know how I feel about the blue line. My take with soccer has always been include a backcourt thing like they do in basketball.
I got you.
Once the ball passes the half on the soccer field, you can't go back behind that. Force this team to try to be more aggressive. You can't just keep passing it around forever. Counterattacks are going to be that much more spicy. Listen, I'm all for that.
Oh, man. And by the way, Cliff, who's a big soccer fan, says I would kill to give my takes. And you know what? Like, and
he's not killing me.
and what you're proposing, like, it would fundamentally change the way that soccer is played, and it's been played the way, essentially it's been played with some minor changes, I'm sure, but it's essentially been played the same way for centuries. Like, if you take the back pass out of it and essentially make it a more of a half-court game,
right?
This is one of those things where, like, and I'm sure you know this about soccer fans, it's like they are the most resistant to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've added over the last 4 years, instant replay to the sport, and like 90% of fans hate it. Now, to be fair, soccer referees are some of the most idiotic of individuals ever. So like, even when they have replay to use, they call it VAR, they somehow manage to do a worse job when they can watch the videos than when they can. So I don't know how that's possible, because when they instituted instant replay I think it was around like 2017, which seemed very revolutionary. I was like, oh, this is so great. My team's not going to get fucked over by terrible call. Like I've been fucked over even more times.
It
with
somehow
the
makes it
replay.
worse. It makes no sense. Soccer refereeing is one of the most frustrating things. And don't even get me started on the whole, like, listen, yellow cards and red cards, I get it, but it's so like different by each referee. They just give it out by whoever. And then they do this thing where they pull out the yellow card and then they hold it up. And they're like, tell the guy, come here so I can show it to you. It's like, who do you think you are, bro? You're just a referee. Slow down. This guy's making millions. Don't come here. I need you to look at the card I'm about to give you. Like, what are you doing? You know what? That's small energy, right? Like, it is. I don't have to mention the appendage, but that's what it is.
Dude, that is so freaking perfect. Well, and what do you think about World Cups every 2 years? Because they're going to do that. Like, that's not somebody's take. That's actually happening. I think the every 4-year thing, why mess with it? It's working. It's perfect.
Yeah, I agree with you on like the fact that it's so rare makes it that much more special. The only reason why I'm okay with every 2 years is because then it gives the U.S. more chances to win. And once every 4 years, I'm probably going to die before they even make it to a final. So if once every 2 years makes the chances better and gives Christian Pulisic more World Cup chances, I'm all for it, honestly.
Dude, it's funny you say that because I was going to tweet out today and I either didn't get around to it or I couldn't find the right way to word it. I was like, oh, this is just going to be double the times the U.S. men's national team is going to fail on the world stage. But, maybe I'll get to that later.
Maybe we'll just host a bunch more because we're the only country that can do it and not kill people building stadiums. Who knows?
Right. We're the only.
Yeah,
you're right. We're the only country that can do that without either killing people or bankrupting your country just to build the infrastructure. Because the USA, you don't need to do a whole lot because you already have state-of-the-art stadiums. Because you think about so many of the NFL stadiums around, like they are state-of-the-art enough to host a World Cup. Where a lot of other countries, oh my God, we've got to change the seating, we've got to add boxes, we got to build new stadiums. So we're more equipped to host than most countries are. I want to get into some Dolphins and some Heat with you because you wear a lot of hats on this network.
Just not right now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've got my lovely 5 Reasons Sports hat on, which
I have a Dolphins hat next to me, but I'm getting it ready to throw into a fire.
As you probably should. Is Brian Flores on a hot seat in your opinion? Because I certainly think Chris Grier is. And the coaching has also been really bad this year. Yes. Is Brian Flores on the hot seat?
I think if he's not on the hot seat, then you're kidding yourselves, right? Like whoever's making that decision is making an awful decision, right? Like it makes no sense at all. For me, the way it should be is you're a tandem, you're a team, everything in the regime should be aligned, right? So Chris Grier and Brian Flores should be working very closely together. So in my head, I can't sit here and say all the picks are solely on Chris Grier because there should have been input from Brian Flores. He should have said, I want this guy. I like this guy. They have that debate. They talk about it back and forth. To me, I see them as a unit. My belief is if you let go of one of them, you have to let go of both of them. Because then let's just say, for example, we get to the end of the season. We're underwhelmed. I mean, more so than we are already. I don't know. But we're completely underwhelmed by what happened.
Can it get worse? It probably could, actually. Yeah.
Oh, it can. And it probably will. Chris Grier gets let go. You're keeping Brian Flores. Then who do you take in as the next GM, right? Because what if the best GM candidate out there comes in and says, you know what? I don't want Brian Flores as my head coach, though. I want to bring in this other guy as head coach. And you're like, well, we're keeping Brian Flores, so he passes. So you end up getting your 5th or 6th favorite candidate for the GM position. And then Brian Flores has another bad year. So then Brian Flores gets canned, but you keep the GM. It's just keeping everything out of dysfunctioning. I don't like it. To me, I have been on this since week 2 after the Bills loss. If you're letting go of Chris Grier, you have to let go of Brian Flores. So for me, if he's not on a hot seat, he must not be sitting in a seat because, good Lord, I think it's time for him to go.
Why were we so bamboozled by Flores? Because prior to the last month, I would have taken a bullet for this guy, and for his coaching. I would have, the first year he overachieved to get 5 wins, overachieved certainly to get 10 wins last year. We've taken this giant step back, and it's and it's not just about talent. If it was strictly just about bad players, then you put it all on Grier. But there have been so many questionable coaching decisions. and so much bad play calling by, and he's responsible for this revolving door of offensive coordinators, and this whole experiment of multiple coordinators looks like it's failing miserably. So you put so much of this on coaching. Like, what's changed since last year? Like, how is Flores just now getting exposed?
Like, it's just so many things, right? Like, this year is literally the year out of hell for him. And here's the thing about Brian Flores and to Chris Grier, they both seem like great people.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to just hang out with those guys and have a conversation about football, because I have no doubt they know a lot more than I do. But it comes to a certain point where you have to start owning up for certain things, and it doesn't look like Flores has done that at all. The stubbornness is cute and it's chic, and everyone's for it when you're winning games.
Yeah.
When you start losing and people have ideas and your response is, no, we're going to get it right. No, we're going to get it right. And you keep making the same mistakes over and over again. People start saying you're probably not the guy because you're not willing to change. Those first 2 seasons, he overachieved for sure. But the moment expectations hit, he completely fails. Jacoby Brissett, terrible acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
The draft picks from 2019 or 2020, right, when they took Tua, oh my goodness, what a bunch of misses across the board. Every free agent we've brought in has basically been let go the next year, with the exception of like a very small handful. They traded for players. They cut them too. There's so much turnover. None of it makes sense. It's just all of these things are being exposed at once. Having lost Tua accelerated the decline of this team. And I think you're seeing it now. And I mean, the only thing left the rest of the year, watch Tua. Watch Tua, figure out whether he's the guy or not. Because in my opinion, genuinely, I love Brian Flores as a guy, as a dude. I would keep him on as a defensive coordinator, which I don't think he'll do. Yeah. I think it's time for him to move on.
And I wrote something on Twitter yesterday that had some people agreeing with me wholeheartedly. Some people got very mad at me because, I don't know, they either misunderstood my point or they love Tua so much. If they even think someone is attacking him, they go after you. But, I on the one hand, I get annoyed, of course, with the people who try to blame everything on Tua. Like, if anyone's trying to blame, he did throw a bad interception, but he played overall very well against Jacksonville. So it's like anyone who's trying to put that loss on him is ridiculous, completely wrong. But then on the flip side of it, you have the cult of Tua, like the people who just think this guy is the savior and don't say anything bad about him, who look at it and they flex the stats like, oh my God, he threw for 329 yards.
Right.
Amazing. Second worst passing defense in the NFL. Like it's, and people got mad at me for saying that because, we can't brag about a good game. Is Tua responsible for the schedule now? My greater point, Michael, is nothing from Sunday's game moved the needle for me one way or the other as to figuring out if Tua is the franchise quarterback. Obviously, it's better to have a good game than a bad game. Like if he had a bad game against a bad defense, you would ask a ton more questions. To me, to go out there and have a good game against the Jaguars doesn't really tell me a whole lot. Where are you right now on Tua? And I think you made a great point. The rest of the season should be about evaluating him. So how's your evaluation of number one looking right now?
So, I mean, my evaluation, to be honest with you, is always going to be slightly biased because I just think he's a good kid, man. I really love Tua as a person, and I want him to succeed. Also because I want to finally say we found the guy, right? We finally found the quarterback that we've never had in my lifetime as a Dolphins fan, other than the end of Dan Marino. For me, the thing with Tua is from this past Sunday, I don't think you can blame him for the game almost at all. In terms of he is the reason why we lost, I think that's a ridiculous statement to make.
Right.
But I think it's also fair to say that Tua didn't have the best game he could have. I just went ahead and I actually just finished rewatching basically every offensive drive in condensed form. Tua made good decisions. He made bad decisions. He was a bit back and forth. You could tell that the rib injury was kind of affecting some of the throw decisions he was making because everything felt like he was overcompensating and trying to throw a bullet. The interception, he didn't get any touch on that. And it just seemed like the motion wasn't really right there. So I can't give him credit and say he had an amazing game, but I can't say he played a good game and he did enough for the Dolphins to win.
Yeah.
To me, the defense just absolutely failed. And don't even get me started on Michael Pilardi.
Oh.
Somebody call up Kai and have Kai punt. I don't even think Kai's ever punted before in his life.
He's a soccer fan, so he's probably kicked before. Yeah.
Well, I know he's kicked for football, right? He used to kick field goals.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So just get anybody else out there because this Pilardi guy is losing us games.
Yeah.
Everybody took a step down. Pilardi's terrible. Jason Sanders missed that 58-yarder. so far wide left, he looked like an FSU kicker. I don't know what's happening. It's just everywhere. And I think Tua, on a list of issues from that game, he's so low on that list that why is he the conversation piece?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Yeah, I've noticed throughout the show, people on the chat line have been throwing in a bunch of names to consider for future Dolphins head coaches. What do you think about Psycho Jim Harbaugh? Obviously, if Stephen Ross could finally make that happen, that would be like a bucket list thing for him. He wanted Harbaugh 12, 13 years ago during Sperano's tenure. Harbaugh ends up at Michigan. Ross is off. So, he's not really wanted to poach Harbaugh from Michigan because that's like taking money out of one pocket to put it in the other. But do you think Jim Harbaugh, who he has had some success in the NFL before, and he got to a Super Bowl, do you think Jim Harbaugh could actually be a good choice for the Dolphins, or is this guy just too volatile?
I don't know about Jim Harbaugh. We saw what he did in San Francisco. It had its highs, it had its lows. It's a bit all over the place. For me, I think they need to figure out who they want in charge, right? Who do you want in charge? Do you want the head coach to be the main guy and the GM is kind of working with him and the head coach is picking the players and drafting free agency? Or do you want the GM to be that guy? He's making final decisions. He picks his head coach. I think you need to pick one of those two to be the leader, and then they can pick their team. Because if you go out and get John Harbaugh, then you got to get a GM. And I think picking John Harbaugh, he would have to pick the GM because how poorly he's going to play with anybody.
And Jim, not John. Actually, I'd rather have John. If John was available, sign me up for that in a second.
We're about to get our butts handed to us by the Ravens in a couple weeks. Good Lord, I'm not excited for that. They need to figure something out. I think the people that they have in the building right now are not the answers. Chris Greer was given every opportunity to succeed. He had every NFL GM's perfect wishes. He had the picks. He had the money. He had cap space. He had a free reign on everything. A young budding head coach who was working out, and he totally whiffed on all of them across the board. So I understand nobody wants to rebuild, but how many players on this roster are you really confident saying, let's keep them and move forward with them? Is there more than 5 or 6?
I said the same thing yesterday. We're totally in lockstep on that. And I get it. You've got so many young players, first and second year guys, you can't literally blow up the roster. But I mean, the NFL, when you're talking about 53 guys, it's kind of impossible to get rid of everybody.
Yep.
The Dolphins are going to have to keep certain players. There's certain players they want to keep. I want to keep Jalen Waddle. I'd love to keep Mike Gesicki, who needs a new deal.
Phillips is going to stay. Yeah. Javon Holland is going to stay. You've got a decent amount of young players who have promising futures. Yeah. But the problem is that's who you're throwing out there right now. Right. And if you watch this team, it's always a different player making a mistake on each drive. It's a hold by a young offensive lineman. It's a drop by Jalen Waddle, who unfortunately has had a case of the drops far too often this season. It's, Brandon Jones not being in the right spot. It's Coleman, who was an awful pickup. It's all over the place. Somebody needs to figure this out.
By the way, I love it. Brooke Rob Mush Jr. just picked the Ravens.
I'm picking against the Dolphins the rest of the year. To prove that Mush Jr. isn't real. But if it is real, congratulations, they're 11-0 because of me. So,
oh man, we're running out of time. But I do want, if you want to say a quick word about your expectations for the Heat's opener, and I know it's a tough one because the team you're playing against plays tonight. So obviously, we're going to know a lot more about the 2021-2022 version of the Bucks after around 10 o'clock till 10:30 this evening. But how do you think the Heat are going to match up with the Bucks this season? Because that was the team that humiliated us last year, the team that we kicked out of the playoffs 2 years ago. But obviously, last year they had our number.
Yeah, I mean that's the barometer, right? That's what this team needs to measure themselves against because that is the best in the East. For me, this Thursday's game, I have the Heat winning. I picked the Heat to win. If you listen to Feel the Heat, I mentioned on there, and my reasoning was mainly they're going to have just gotten their championship rings, right? Because they're getting those tonight. They'll have been just coming off a game against the Nets that they're really excited for. I think they're going to be really open to, kind of a lull in that second game of the season. And the Heat are going to be so fired up because Jimmy Butler is absolutely pissed. I'm sure he got swept out of the first round. So he's super mad. And so I'm sure he's going to go and really rile up this team. I do have the Heat winning. I think I said by 6 or 7.
Nice. and by the way, this is I know Alana is watching, and I did want to give you a chance to. I don't know if you're going to do as good of a job of promoting as Alana does, because she never misses a cue. She's perfect on this. Not only do you guys have a new episode of Feel the Heat, you also now have a Twitter account. Like I felt great when I checked this morning or this afternoon, whenever it was, and I saw a new follower, Feel the Heat. Hit that follow back immediately. So let people know where they can find the new episode and where they can find you guys on Twitter.
Yeah, so you guys can find the new Feel the Heat episode on literally every podcast platform. You listen to it on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Google Podcast, Pocket Cast. There's a bazillion out there. Whatever it is, you can find it on there. It's also here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel in audio form. You can go out there and listen to that. We do have a new Twitter account. It's at Feel the Heat 5RSN. Make sure to follow that. And Alana, make sure to tweet it out, like the announcement with like a picture of her. Because I've always said this. I mean, if we're going to promote one of the two of us, it's not going to be the guy that has a face for radio, you know, like my face is completely perfect for radio. It's just, it just kind of works like that. Right. So let's promote the person that probably looks, you know, maybe just slightly better than myself. So, you know, we're promoting a bunch of stuff. And next week, I'll give it here first on a little bit of quote unquote breaking news. We have a very, very big change coming up next week that you need to look out for on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Wink, wink. It's going to be a pretty big change for us. We're kind of trying to push the pod in a different direction with some of the things. So make sure to check that out. I'm sure Alana will promote it next Monday as well. It's huge.
Well, congratulations in advance. I look forward to finding out more. And make sure you follow Michael. You can see the Twitter handle there on the screen. If you're just listening to this, I'll spell it out for you. Michael 5RSN on Twitter. Thank you so much, man. Enjoy all the NBA action tonight, tomorrow, and then we got the big one Thursday night with the Heat. Thank you.
Honored to be your Mush Junior, bro. Have a good rest of your show, and thanks for having me on.
I love it. The Mush Junior to my Mush Senior. I should have, I wanted to, in the middle of the conversation, change my name thing to Mush Senior. And then I either forgot or I got too lazy. Something happened. But huge, I want to throw some shout outs. I was so busy yesterday complaining that I forgot to throw out the shout outs to the people in the live chat. Alana, awesome job. Remy, thank you so much. Marco, MB Beggs, thank you. David, Martina, thank you so much, Martina, for joining in. Very passionate about the Dolphins. We appreciate that. My guy, Rafa in Miami. My guy, Brooklyn Rob. Even though Brooklyn Rob, he trolls me 24/7, I still love the dude. This mush stuff. I'm world famous now. Everybody thinks that if I give out a pick, and Manny the Mutt, yes, Manny had to dip a little bit early, but I know he's going to watch this back. Manny the Mutt, Mush, Mush Senior, Perfect Q. Thank you so much for watching. Zachary B, thank you so much. Jets Gang, who says he thought the Dolphins were a playoff team. You know what's funny? I'm thinking about this. When I see someone whose name is Jets Gang who's watching us, this has got to be one of those watch at us and laugh situations. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a Jets fan, you probably hate the Dolphins. And you're probably thinking, this guy on YouTube talking about me talks a lot of Miami Dolphins. Both teams, I think, are 1-5. So the Jets are obviously bad, but the Jets were expected to be bad. The Dolphins are shockingly bad. So if you're a Jets fan, some of the little joy in your life comes from trolling the Dolphins and watching our misery. Like, do you ever get that where sometimes you will watch a video or listen to a podcast from people who cover a team you hate because they're doing terribly and you want to laugh a little bit? I think he's doing that to us. I think Jets Gang is probably watching us so he can laugh at us because he knows that me and most of the people who interact with me are Dolphin fans. So I guess enjoy it. I can't really defend myself. The Dolphins are bad. Your Jets are also bad, but they're in the first part of a rebuild. The Dolphins should be finishing a rebuild, and they're worse somehow. So sucks. Always Sunny, thank you. Chris Adams, thank you. I know Chris was very happy when we made the time change from noon to 3 because he can watch a lot more live now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me see if I can find. This is the part that gets so hard when I'm scrolling up and I'm trying to find people I haven't shouted out already. Oh, Cliff Esmiol. Cliff, thank you so much. Let's see who else. A lot of the same people throughout. Point to Point Hockey. Thank you so much for tuning in. He was like tweeting out live Champions League scores. I didn't appreciate, like, he was tweeting out Champions League scores from like every game except the one that I care about most, and that's Inter and Sheriff. And Inter did have, last I checked, the 1-0 lead at halftime. I'm hoping that's going to be, something that they hold on to because they've not been in good form lately. Natural Vibes, thank you so much for tuning in. And this is when I tap out. Justin Hill, G, Crowells. If I missed anybody, I apologize. It happens. I try to shout out everybody. Make sure you guys are checking out and shouting out our sponsors, the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. Check it out, guys. 2 for $1 happy hour, ice cold beers, 5 for $15 ice cold buckets during. Oh, he says he did ping me when Inter scored. I missed it. I'm sorry. I kept seeing like all the other scores, and I missed the Inter score. I apologize. I take back what I said about you not updating the Inter game. I must have missed the when you tweeted about the Edin Dzeko goal. Thank you so much. You guys check out the Quarterdeck. Go to quarterdeckrestaurants.com. Find the location nearest to you. Come for the food. Stay for the fun. And if you guys want to bet Champions League action, I think the late games are all happening now. You can live bet second halves, or you can bet the games tomorrow. Use our official sportsbook, betus.com, a full-service sportsbook. They're called America's favorite sportsbook because the reviews are fantastic. Everybody loves BetUS. Their customer service is great. They will make you feel like a VIP when you join BetUS. They've got action on every game, in every league, in every sport you can possibly imagine. Sign up at betus.com. Sign up with our code 5RSN125. and you get a 125% sign-up bonus with your deposit. If you deposit, let's say $100, they're going to give you $125 of free play money on top of your deposit. How good is that? BetUS, you play, you win, you get paid. BetUS. Huge thanks to Sean Stanley, to Manny Chang, even though Manny had to dip out a few minutes early. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Should be another big one tomorrow. I'm looking forward to watching a lot of NBA tonight and really scouting those world champion Milwaukee Bucks to get us ready for Thursday night's Heat opener. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow on another episode, 3 p.m. of Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ciao.